People without a high school diploma are destined to be alone forever. After more than a decade, I reunited with my classmate Max at a class reunion, and then again during a business meeting at a hotel. When Max interrupted the business meeting with disdain, I couldn't hide my anger as he started boasting about himself and hurling insults at me. However, the situation took a turn when a certain individual appeared, causing Max's face to contort. As we were arguing at the hotel entrance, a black car pulled up, and a beautiful woman stepped out. "Sorry to keep you waiting." As the woman approached me, a dumbfounded hut escaped from Max. Revealing her identity to Max only added to his shock. This reunion set the stage for Max to plummet into the depths of his own making. "My name is Tom Parker. I'm 33 years old. I run a company called Johnson Industries. In simple terms, we supply machinery to factories and other businesses. The company was originally founded by my great-grandfather on my mother's side and was passed down to my grandfather, then to my father, and finally to me, the only son. Since I was young, I was told by my father and grandfather that I would be the next successor, so I joined Johnson Industries right after graduating middle school. Honestly, I did have a desire to go to high school and college. But once I started working and got into the machinery, I was hooked. Now, I'm so glad I chose this path instead of pursuing further education. After 15 years of hard work, I took over from my father as president at the age of 30. Initially, being the grandson of Chairman Johnson and the son of President Parker, I faced a lot of skepticism from the employees, which was tough at times. But now, the employees recognize my efforts and dedication, and they support me. Being a president is challenging, but my days are fulfilling. One day, a postcard arrived for me out of the blue. Little did I know at the time, this postcard would lead to an unbelievable series of events. After a usual day at work, I came home and my girlfriend Olivia, who was living with me, handed me a postcard. "Today, there was a postcard in the mailbox for you, Tom." The postcard was an invitation to a middle school reunion. As I pondered over the postcard, Olivia looked at me curiously. "Why are you making such a serious face? Don't you want to go to the reunion?" It seemed I was wearing a rather grim expression. "To be honest, I'm torn about going," I replied, leaving Olivia even more puzzled. I had a reason for feeling this way. There was someone from my class I didn't want to meet. I would have liked to catch up with old friends, as reunions don't happen often. But the thought of encountering that person made it hard to decide. The person I didn't want to meet was Max, a classmate from my second and third years of middle school. In school, I wasn't particularly prominent or obscure. I was somewhere in the middle. In contrast, Max was very popular and always at the center of our class. Normally, we wouldn't have crossed paths, but once we were in the same class, Max started to see me as an adversary. We never really talked, so I couldn't have done anything to upset him. But for some reason, Max was always hostile towards me. Being forced into class duties and having to do Max's and his clique's chores was a regular occurrence. If I ever tried to resist, Max would retaliate with even more hostility. "Poor people should just listen to me. Don't you dare defy me." Forced by his entourage, I reluctantly complied with Max and his group's demands. But there was one thing I couldn't forgive. It happened when I announced I would join a family business instead of continuing my education. When Max asked about my future plans and I mentioned I was going to work, he burst into laughter. "So your family is too poor to send you to high school? Well, that's rough. Can't believe your dad can't even afford to send you to school. You really lost the parent lottery." Being insulted about my family truly made my blood boil. Ever since that incident, I've done my best to avoid Max and led a peaceful life from middle school to the present. I still can forgive him for what he did, and if possible, I'd rather not meet him again. When I shared this middle school experience with Olivia, she pondered for a moment before saying, "I know it must have been tough back then, but reunions don't happen every year. It might be a good idea to go. Max has probably matured since then and won't bother you." Olivia kindly encouraged me. Indeed, she had a point. Convinced, I decided to attend the reunion. On the day of the reunion, I finished work and headed straight to the hotel where it was being held. Most of my classmates had already gathered, and it was surreal seeing their faces after so many years. The guys hadn't changed much, but the girls were unrecognizable, and I had a hard time identifying them even when they spoke to me. I looked around to check on Max's whereabouts, but it seemed he hadn't arrived yet. According to a classmate, he was running late due to work commitments. Catching up with old friends turned out to be surprisingly enjoyable. As we reminisced over drinks, I found myself indulging more than usual. I was glad I took Olivia's advice and attended the reunion. However, the good times didn't last. While chatting with some close friends from back in the day, Max showed up late and remarked, "Look who's here, the pool kid." He had already had a few drinks by the time he arrived at our group. I was so engrossed in my conversation that I hadn't noticed Max's arrival. Contrary to Olivia's hopes, Max hadn't changed at all, neither in appearance nor in attitude. But I was a grown man now. "Hey, long time no see, how've you been?" I responded maturely to Max's taunts. Annoyed by my demeanor, Max, flushed with anger and alcohol, sneered, "Got time to kill here, do you? Must be because you didn't even finish high school, right? Can't imagine anyone decent hiring you." Despite attempts by a few classmates to calm him down, Max remained unapologetic. "Thomas," one of the classmates tried to intervene, but I stopped them. "It's okay, really. So Max, where are you working these days?" When I asked, Max began to speak with a look of self-satisfaction on his face. "I'm a sales supervisor at Harrison Industries." Harrison Industries was a fairly well-known company, not a major conglomerate but sizable. "I'm just a supervisor now, but I'm set to become the president in the future." "President? For family connections or something?" Upon hearing my words, Max's expression grew even more smug. No, I'm going to become part of the family. I was introduced to the president's daughter by President Harrison himself. We're dating now and plan to marry next year, so I'm the next president in line." It seemed he had been set up with the only daughter of President Harrison, and things had progressed smoothly to engagement. "I have everything you could ever want but can't have. Jealous. Wishing you happiness," I replied, seeing no point in engaging further. Yet, Max seemed displeased with my response. "What's with that attitude? I've always hated that smug look of yours." Perhaps the alcohol had clouded his judgment as he lunged at me. I was taken aback by his sudden move, but thanks to nearby classmates and the organizers, I managed to avoid confrontation. Assured by the organizer that they would handle the situation, I regretfully decided to leave the rest to them. I thought my presence might only cause more trouble, which is why I decided to leave. Reluctantly, I exited the scene. Later, I received a call from a classmate who had exchanged numbers with me, filling me in on what happened after I left. Max had caused such a scene that the organizers had to forcibly remove him from the venue. I'll never forgive him. It seems Max harbored anger towards me until the end. Some classmates even asked me, "Did you do something to him?" I still can't understand what about me irked him so much. When I shared the reunion story with Olivia, she said with a look of disbelief, "Some people just don't change even as adults. It's quite a learning experience." Some time had passed since the reunion. I had almost forgotten about that day and was living my usual life when some exciting news came my way. A company I had been courting for years reached out, wanting to discuss business in detail. It felt like a dream come true, and I was over the moon, but then a problem arose. The issue was that the meeting was scheduled on the same day as Olivia's birthday. Normally, I would prioritize work. However, it was going to be our first birthday celebration together, and I had made reservations at a restaurant months in advance. But I couldn't afford to turn down this business opportunity. As I was wrestling with this dilemma, Olivia noticed and asked what was wrong, so I explained the situation to her. If it's for work, then it can't be helped. Seeing Olivia's disappointed face made me feel incredibly guilty. Unable to give up on either, I was searching for a solution. At that moment, something suddenly occurred to me. This hotel, coincidentally, the venue Mr. Thompson had chosen for the meeting was the same hotel where I planned to have dinner with Olivia. As long as the meeting didn't overrun, there would be a 1-hour window before our reservation. I'll send a car to pick you up on the day. Can you take it to the hotel? That's totally fine, but are you sure? Yeah, the meeting is with Mr. Thompson, and it's in the same hotel, so there shouldn't be any issues. Reassured by my words, Olivia seemed pleased. I was relieved to have resolved one issue, but little did I know what was to come. On the day of the meeting, I arrived at the hotel lounge to find Mr. Thompson already enjoying a coffee. Mr. Thompson was staying at this hotel because his daughter and her family, who live far away, had come to visit. They were out sightseeing, and Mr. Thompson planned to join them after our meeting. This was why our meeting was scheduled at the hotel. The meeting started well, with Mr. Thompson listening intently to my presentation and even offering positive feedback. I had received encouraging feedback and was hopeful things were going well when suddenly, "Tom, what are you doing here?" Max appeared in the lounge, accompanied by a man who seemed to be his junior colleague. As I was processing this unexpected encounter, Mr. Thompson asked, "Do you know him?" To which I replied that we were former classmates. "Even a poor guy like you gets to do business in a place like this. Seems like an outfit for you," Max commented, despite it being clear I was in the middle of a meeting. Mr. Thompson looked puzzled at Max's interruption. "I'm at a meeting right now. Can we talk later?" I tried to deflect, but Max, unfazed, pulled out his business card and handed it to Mr. Thompson. "I don't know what this meeting is about, but you'd be better off doing business with us instead of this bottom feeder. A college graduate like me can give you a much better presentation than a high school dropout." Despite my attempts to intervene with a "hey," Max wouldn't stop. He continued to boast about his own superiority and looked down on me as the lowest of the low. Mr. Thompson's expression darkened, and he abruptly declared, "I can't stand this any longer. This is intolerable. Today's meeting is cancelled." With that, he stormed out of the lounge, visibly furious. I hurried after Mr. Thompson, but for some reason, Max and his junior colleague followed as well. As Mr. Thompson got into a taxi, I apologized, saying, "I'll come to apologize properly." He responded with a kind expression, promising to contact me later to reschedule. After seeing Mr. Thompson off, I turned and glared at Max behind me, shouting, "What were you thinking? Interrupting someone's business meeting like that? What's going on in your head?" Yet, Max showed no sign of remorse. I wasn't trying to interfere on purpose, just offering some friendly advice. Feeling it was pointless to continue the conversation, I quickly decided to leave the scene. "I'll be staying here soon with my fiancée. We came today to check out the place in advance." I didn't ask, but Max volunteered this information anyway. I just randomly chimed in and was about to return inside when Max suddenly said, "People without a high school diploma will always be alone." Confused by his comment, I was taken aback when he added, "You're heading towards a lonely old age, so maybe I should ask my fiancée to set you up with someone. But then, everyone probably rejects poor people like you." Unsure how to respond, I was at a loss when suddenly, a sleek black car pulled up in front of us. A stunningly beautiful woman emerged from the sleek black car. Her beauty was so overwhelming that Max and his junior colleague were left speechless. The woman looked at me and said, "Sorry to keep you waiting." I wasn't waiting, just had some things to deal with and came outside. The woman who had stepped out of the car was Olivia. As we were exchanging words, a confused "huh" could be heard. Turning towards Max, I saw him demanding, "Hey, who's this beauty? Introduce me. Can't you tell from the conversation? This is Olivia, my girlfriend. Pleased to meet you, I'm Olivia." Upon introducing Olivia, Max incredulously started mocking me in front of her. "No way. Someone like you couldn't possibly have such a gorgeous girlfriend. What kind of dream are you living in? A high school dropout at the bottom of the social ladder couldn't possibly be with someone so beautiful. She's wearing brand name stuff, and you're worlds apart. There's no way she's your girlfriend." Watching Max laugh and point at me stirred my anger. Just as I was about to retort, Olivia stepped in. "Could you please stop mocking my boyfriend? It's extremely unpleasant." Her clear displeasure and those words seemed to unsettle Max. "Is that really true?" Max asked me, to which I nodded firmly. Unexpectedly, Max made an audacious move. "It's a waste for you to be with someone like him. Why don't you switch to me?" Incredibly, right in front of me, her boyfriend, Max started hitting on Olivia. He was spouting off cheesy lines, suggesting she'd be better off switching to him instead of staying with me. Appalled by his lack of decorum, I was about to intervene when Olivia cut in. "I'm not interested in someone as rude as you. You seem to have an inflated opinion of yourself, but my boyfriend is far superior to you in every way." Max was visibly shocked by her words. This guy, really? By the way, how did the meeting go? Well, about that. I began to recount the recent events to her. Olivia looked at Max with a sly smile and said, "You've done it now. That man is very strict about manners. He must be furious. It's over for you." Max, still smug, laughed it off. "What are you talking about? It's just a meeting with some low-level dropouts business contact. It's probably no big deal." As Max laughed heartily, I decided to reveal a crucial piece of information. The person you angered and drove away was Mr. Thompson, the president of the Thompson Group. Wait, the Thompson Group, that's our most important. Well, there's hardly anyone around here who doesn't know them. The Thompson Group is a major company that oversees this entire area. Moreover, from what I've heard, Harrison Industries appears to be one of the Thompson Group's most important business partners. Making such a person angry could be a significant problem. As Max turned pale, I decided to address more facts. "You've always been calling me poor, but on what basis are you saying that? What are you talking about? Your family didn't have the money to send you to high school, right? That's why you ended up a high school dropout." Max retorted, clearly misunderstanding my situation. He seemed to think I didn't pursue higher education because my family was impoverished. I had explained when asked that I joined a family business after middle school, but he must have missed that part. So, I took the opportunity to clarify that I joined a family business by choice, not because we lacked funds. "I never heard that," Max said, looking at me as if seeing something unbelievable. Unable to hide his shock, I took the moment to ask something I'd wondered for years. "Max, you've been hostile towards me since middle school. Did I ever do something to you? If I did, I'd like to know." Max hesitantly began to explain the reason for his hostility. "It's because Lily said she liked you." Lily was the girl considered the idol of our grade. I didn't particularly care, but most of the boys liked Lily. Max was probably one of them. Once in middle school, Max confessed his feelings to Lily. During that confession, Lily told him, "I like Tom," and rejected him. It seems his pride was wounded because he was turned down to someone like me, who wasn't even popular, and since then, he has held a grudge against me. I never imagined that such a trivial matter could be the reason for his hostility. For something so trivial, it was so absurd that I found myself saying it out loud without realizing. Hearing this, Max became visibly angry and seemed ready to confront me physically. "How dare you call it trivial? If it weren't for you, I could have been with Lily." I was utterly astounded by Max's grievance. "Don't get cocky just because you're some bottom feeder. I'm a sales supervisor at Harrison Industries. You're not in a position to talk back to me." While being restrained by his junior, Max glared at me and said those words. Then, Olivia, who was standing next to me, suddenly burst into laughter. "A sales supervisor standing up to a president like Tom, that's quite amusing." "What? President? Who are you talking about?" "My boyfriend." "You didn't know Tom is a president?" When Olivia said that, Max looked as if he'd been hit by a bolt from the blue. "Actually, I'm the president of Johnson Industries. I took over from my parents." "Johnson Industries? No way, that's..." Max's shock was understandable. "Though I say it myself, my company is considered a major player in the industry, and it's on a different scale compared to where Max works. It's not a company I started, but it has a long history of achievements." Frozen in place, Max couldn't seem to grasp the reality before him. "Tom, isn't it about time?" Olivia said, looking at her watch. It was 10 minutes before our reservation. "You better make a proper apology to Mr. Thompson." With that, Olivia and I went back into the hotel. The next day, when I arrived at the office, I noticed a familiar figure causing a scene at the reception in the lobby. As the receptionist noticed me and called out with a troubled look, "President Parker," the person turned and approached me briskly. "What do you want, Max?" It was Max at the reception. Red-faced and agitated, he grabbed my collar and accused, "It's your fault Mr. Thompson canceled our contract. Take responsibility." It seems that there had been a call from Mr. Thompson's office to terminate the contract with Harrison Industries, causing a major uproar. "What do you expect me to do? This isn't something I can fix. You'll have to sort it out yourself. If you just apologize to Mr. Thompson, everything can be settled. It's all up to your apology. An apology from me won't solve anything." We argued back and forth in the lobby, but it was going nowhere. "You have to do something, or my engagement and everything else will be in jeopardy." I decided to reveal another fact to Max. "Even if things with Mr. Thompson are resolved, I think your engagement will be called off." "Why would that be?" "I didn't mention it before, but my girlfriend is Mr. Thompson's niece." Max whispered in disbelief. "What?" "Olivia's father also runs a company, and she's essentially a president's daughter too. Coincidentally, she's friends with the daughter of President Harrison." On our way to the restaurant, Olivia mentioned, "That guy looks just like my friend's boyfriend. I've only seen photos, but they're identical." I then told her that Max was engaged to the president's daughter of Harrison Industries. Excitedly, Olivia said, "Harrison Industries? Then he must indeed be my friend's boyfriend. She's the daughter of President Harrison." I was amazed at such a coincidence. Upon hearing this, Max turned pale and let go of me. "I think it's only a matter of time before this reaches the president's daughter through my girlfriend, and then it'll get to President Harrison," I said. At that, Max collapsed on the spot, muttering, "It's all over." Since we couldn't have him loitering in the company any longer, I told him, "There's nothing I can do for you. You're disrupting work, so please leave." Max glared at me, got up, and then landed a solid punch on my cheek. Caught off guard, I fell to the ground. Security quickly intervened, restraining Max, who was then reported to the police and taken away. "I'll be filing a formal complaint, so be prepared," I declared. As he was led away by the police, Max, tears streaming down his face, lamented, "This wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be easy mode." Afterward, I intended to file a complaint about the assault. However, Max's parents came to me multiple times, offering to pay for the treatment and compensation, pleading for a settlement, which I eventually agreed to. Max's parents seemed like decent people, making it all the more baffling how Max turned out the way he did. Due to this incident and being taken away by the police, Max was fired from his job. He was dumped by the president's daughter, evicted from the company dormitory, and ended up losing his home and job. He was reportedly going around asking friends and acquaintances for money. Some classmates must have complained to his parents, who couldn't stand to see their son's downfall and found him a live-in job. According to a classmate, Max is working there now, but his salary is managed by his parents, leaving him with no disposable income. It's his own doing, so I hope he reflects on his actions. Afterward, I had the opportunity to negotiate with Mr. Thompson once again. This time, we successfully finalized a contract, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Mr. Thompson even went as far as to say, "Please take good care of my niece." Recently, I proposed to Olivia. I had decided to propose once my work was on track. Tears in her eyes, Olivia said, "Thank you. Now that I have even more to protect, I'm committed to do it with all my might."